Welcome back to the Fenway Focus. My name is Jason. I'm here with Derek, and this is kind of the will of the 2024 Red Sox season, right? It's not dead yet, but you know it's coming. So I think it's a good time to break everything down, what went wrong, and kind of what you can expect for the future, and maybe do a little bit of off-season talk. But like I said, it's the will. It's not dead yet, but in all likelihood, it's gonna happen sooner rather than later. So I hand it over to you, Derek. How you doing? And give us your thought. Like, what went wrong for this Red Sox team in the second half? It's very broad, but we know what sticks out to you about what went wrong with this 2024 Red Sox team.
Well, I mean, there's a lot that went wrong. Let's let's just start
It's
there.
not one answer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this isn't like this was the one thing that went wrong and nothing else happened. Like, no, there's a lot that went wrong with this team. Um, a lot that went right too. I think we talked about that last episode. There's a lot of takeaways a lot of good things you can take away from the season, but there's also a lot of bad things. So trying to balance the two out. I think the worst thing that happened this season, honestly, might have just been just the injury bug, and then just kind of that second half derailment of just everything kind of crashing and burning in the second half, I guess is the way you could put it. There are a lot of factors: injuries, just Acosta's not being healthy, maybe Dom Smith not being around. Who the heck knows? But it. Maybe we didn't have enough of those big Dom Smith moments, obviously. I don't know. But there was a lot that was that definitely could have. There's a lot that just didn't happen, right? And guys starting to struggle, offense going cold, defense not playing fundamental defense at times, which has been a recurring theme with the Red Sox. It feels like, when you have a manager that preaches defense, 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 and you continually make defensive mistakes, you start to question, okay, what the heck's going on? Funnily enough, though, Jason and I talked a little bit before we recorded. I could figure out, okay, what do we want to talk about? But just funnily enough, I just happened to look just before we hit record. Yeah, the Red Sox have, I think, the most defensive runs saved from the center field position.
That's actually insane.
So, Rafaela has 10 defensive runs saved in center field, which is tied for 7th in baseball. Jarren Duran leads the MLB with 17 defensive runs saved in center.
That's crazy.
So now they're both not the best. Duran's got 8 outs above average. Rafaela's got 5. You have guys like Jacob Young with 21 outs above average, and he's also got 13 runs saved.
How?
Yeah, exactly.
But the other thing is,
Jose Siri was 16 outs above average. Shout out Jose Siri. We brought him up before we were talking. I was like, yeah, imagine the Red Sox got Jose Siri. Because the Red Sox did try trading for him at one point, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Back when he was with Houston. But
it's just center field was the one defensive position where it was very consistent all year round. Everywhere else,
and right field you could argue was mostly consistent.
Right field, okay. I'll give you center field, and I'll give you right field. Everywhere else, no. I'm sorry. It's not atrocious. It's just not good. Not good.
And not consistent.
Not consistent, which is the biggest Cora, like you said, Cora preaches defense, and then you come back and you have the worst in the league. Calm the frick on. That's crazy.
No, but it's serious. It's like a legitimate issue that the Red Sox have, and it's like you have got Rafael Devers is going to have his fair share of defensive miscues. We know Rafi's going to play third base. You know what you're going to get from him, right? He's going to play good defense for the most part. And it's kind of sad because you Red Sox, most defensive runs saved, I think, in the center field position as a team. Wilyer Abreu, 14 defensive runs saved and 7 outs above average in right field. And when Duran has played left field, he's been good in left field too, right? So it's almost so when they put Duran, Rafaela, and Abreu in the outfield, which they haven't been able to do a ton because obviously Rafaela's had to play shortstop, but when they get the chance to do that, the outfield defense is stellar. But then it's the infield defense, and that's been a continual problem dating back to our, Kike Hernandez at shortstop experiment, which, went amazing.
Well, yeah, because the argument before was you're taking Kike Hernandez away, the defense is better, and then you're adding Cedar Rafaela. who's really good.
In
Duran's
center.
pretty good. Abreu was solid. O'Neal was a former Gold Glover. And then the infield, Story, Casas had his stuff to work on. Second base is second base, and Rafi's at third base. So, going into the season, it's like, okay, maybe it's not as big of a problem. And we saw the injuries come, and we saw how bad it could be.
Yeah, it's also a thing too. Like Connor Wong has struggled defensively with pass balls, especially later as the season has gone on. Could be a fatigue thing. Remember, I don't think Connor Wong's caught this many games in a season before. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would assume so. Uh, and you talk about keeping a guy like a Reese McGuire around. The reason he was around so long was the framing, and he's not a great framer, but the Red Sox value framing at the bottom of the strike zone. And you know what? Reese McGuire is arguably the best in baseball at framing pitches over the plate below the strike zone, right? And that's probably why he stuck around for so long, right? And
That's
then you got
exactly the reason why he did stick.
and then you have, your David Hamiltons, who, don't get me wrong, he hasn't been like horrific, at depending on where you play him. Like, he's been good at second base, but at shortstop he had, was a struggle, right? When you got to play Emmanuel Valdez at times, that's not great, right? Um, Vaughn Grissom, I know he's back up. He'll be playing second base. Range wise, when you got a big 6'4" second baseman, like, range is going to be somewhat limited compared to a 5'10" guy who's really fast or whatnot. But like, Grissom's been solid defensively for the most part. Just a little bit less range, but he's been solid. Trevor Story, when he's played, but like hasn't played a ton, and that comes into the shortstop issues the Red Sox have had, right? Um, and then Casas not being there. Dom Smith, I think, is like fourth on the team in like errors by like position. And when I say by position, I mean like you're not taking when I say by position, I mean you're not taking this person's 10 errors at this position and 5 errors at this position and combining them. That's what
Like
I mean.
David Hamilton, 9 errors on the season, 7 at shortstop. You're taking account of the 7 at shortstop, not the
Yeah,
9 total. Something
exactly.
like that.
Like Dom Smith is like fourth on it, and he played how many, like 60 something games maybe at first base.
About
Like, so
maybe
it's like
50.
okay, so like that's the thing. It's like there's very much, you know, like they very much have issues, right? And errors aren't like the greatest way to look at things and be like, oh, this guy had 6 errors per se, so blah 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 blah. Like that's not the greatest way to look at things, but like it does give you a little bit of a glimpse when Rafael Devers leads the team in errors, and like,
For the second straight year.
and also too when you look at the errors that he has, 9 of the 12 errors he has are fielding errors, right? Throwing errors, especially from infielders, even outfielders, throwing errors, you can kind of be like, okay, maybe like with an outfielder like a Willie or Abreu, maybe a little bit too aggressive sometimes getting the ball in, maybe trying to make the crazy throw to the plate when maybe you should just hit your cutoff man, right? But that stuff you can fix, right? But I mean, you can fix fielding errors too. But like, you know what I mean, though. Like, if the guy's a little bit too aggressive trying to throw the ball, get a guy out of the plate, and overthrows the catcher, okay, like that's not a fix that you. That's like, hey, just hit your cutoff man next time. Like, but the fielding errors, like, you got to fix that. I know Rafaela, at shortstop hasn't been the greatest. And then Rafaela had 9 errors at shortstop, but the guy basically hadn't played full time shortstop in multiple years, and they had to put him there because of the injuries. Um, Dom Smith had 7 errors at first base, like, not ideal. David Hamilton had 7 errors at shortstop, right? Like, not ideal. I know errors aren't like the way to look at defense, but like, I think the Red Sox lead like baseball in errors, or at least close to it. Like, that's not good, right? You got to make, and especially when it's fundamental plays, a decent amount of the time too. It's not like someone went in the hole and made a crazy diving play and then threw the ball away. It's like the ball that's like 2 feet to the left of them that they bobble and don't get. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of fundamental issues that the lefties, the amount of lefties has been an issue at times. Not necessarily because of the lefties, but because, okay, now we're subbing in righties who now we're playing Romy Gonzalez at first base, and that's an issue, and or Connor Wong's playing first base, or whoever the heck it is, or
Yeah.
because we got to try to get all these righties in the lineup because
It-
Willie Abreu can't play against lefties, and I'm not saying guys like Romy and Refsnyder haven't been good against lefties, they have, but it's like sometimes it gets a little bit much.
And I just did some digging. Since 2018, Rafael Devers has led the Red Sox every season since 2018 in errors.
That sounds about right, unfortunately.
He made 24 errors in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was a platoon player. Isn't that wild?
That's actually wild.
Oh my god. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, do you want to talk about Bregman for a second? Because I think he's very interesting, and I don't think he's gonna cost like $200 million, maybe 150. But he's someone that I'm probably not against getting. It's just a matter of what does that mean for the grand scheme
for the
of things.
team, just for the team as a whole.
Yeah.
We touched on this a little bit. Me and you just talking on the phone. I think that there's definitely reason to be intrigued by Bregman. I think kind of his personality, him having that chip on his shoulder. I know Carabas on Section 10 said it was a little bit like he's kind of like that Pedroia type. I don't know if I'd 100% go there, but like he also has the connection with Cora, and he is a proven player. The defense has gotten worse the last couple years, although I do have a belief that is somewhat due to Yuli Gurriel not playing first base. I know Gurriel defensive metrics don't love him, but the guy was a vacuum at first base. Guy picked everything. I think it was a big thing like in the 2022 World Series where it was like, oh, Gurriel like led all first basemen and like the percentage of like picks he made at first base or whatever it was, right? And Bregman had in 2022, I think had like 3 throwing errors maybe. In the last couple years, he's had like double digits one year and then close to it the other year, right? So it's like I forget which year's double. I think last year was double digits. This year he's like closing in on double digits, right? So it's like and just throwing errors, right? The fielding errors have never been a real issue with Bregman, right? So maybe that first base situation in Houston, Jose Abreu last year, but this year it's Abreu, but then John Singleton and Dubon's playing a little bit of first base, and Caratini and Yainer Diaz are both playing a little bit of first base, and that's no, not it, right? So, but like the thing is, Bregman, okay, but you can't really put him at third base if Rafael Devers is at third, right? And that creates the issue. Bregman, the right-handed bat, you think about it, oh, it makes sense, but like, where does he play? I brought up maybe they could move him to second base, but like the team has a ton of faith in Vaughn Grissom. Like internally, I like from my trips to Worcester and just hearing with what everyone has to say about hearing what Breslow recently said about Grissom, I feel like there is like an internal belief there that Vaughn Grissom can be the everyday second baseman for a long time with the Red Sox. And so then, okay, then second base doesn't really fit. Obviously, he's not going to play shortstop. Then if you put him at third, Devers has to DH. I know there was the Rosenthal put out the thing about moving Devers to first and trading Casas. Don't believe that for a second. Devers,
they're not
DHs.
trading Casas. There's not a shot.
They're not. Devers could DH, but like then where Yoshida's got to play left field every day.
You're not platooning. You're not platooning 2 lefties at DH. That makes
exactly.
No sense.
And so it's like okay, it's like, and you're not going to move Bregman into the outfield. That just would be. I mean, to be fair, we've seen crazier things happen. We saw them put middle linebacker Hanley Ramirez in left field, because that was his body type at that time, middle linebacker. We saw them put Hanley in left. Obviously, we saw how that panned out. Not well, but like,
they had to because they already had their shortstop and third base.
Yeah, well, they very well could have just not traded Cespedes. Imagine, this is going to go off topic for like 30 seconds. Imagine if they re-signed Lester, kept Cespedes, kept him in left, and then just signed Hanley to play third base and never signed Sandoval.
Yeah. You wouldn't have Rick Porcello, though.
But, no Rick Porcello, but you get John Lester.
They get John Lester.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying hypothetically, but that's besides the point. Back to the 2024 team. It's just, there's a lot of things that were like with Bregman. It's like, okay, so where does Bregman really fit in? He doesn't, right? And I think that's the issue. And I think we talked extensively about the outfield. I think the infield is pretty much locked in for next year with Rafi at third, Casas at first. That's pretty much those two are locked.
Your
right?
corner and then Story at short. You
Story
have
at
to have
short's
Story. You
locked.
have to start
And
the
I
year.
would even argue Vaughn Grissom's close to locked at second base. I think.
I think they give him.
Healthy,
I think what happens in this offseason is, I think they do the exact same thing that they did with Grissom. Like they're like, alrighty, here's the keys to the kingdom again. We have a lot of faith in you. You have a good spring training. You put in the work. You come in healthy. That's the biggest part. He's got to come in healthy. He was not healthy last year about the hamstring. Remember, he wasn't 100% when he came back, and because he injured his other hamstring. I was at that game because he had to put more pressure on his other leg. So, point being, you have him healthy, and he does well in spring training. It's his job to lose.
Yeah,
it's the simplest of things. But like for a guy like Grissom, who's going to be 23, 24 by next season, his age 23 season, that's still very young.
Yeah.
You can work with him on things, right? AAA, he was raking. Like now he's fully healthy, and he was raking in AAA. He was really good. I don't remember, but like he was tearing the cover off the ball. And oh yeah, by the way, you had Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell before he got his injury, Kyle Teal, Chase Mydroth too. Like you put him up against with those guys, it's I think he's gonna be fine. Like fine. They just got to develop him. They just got to work with him. He's got to work with his coaches too.
Yeah, and they've been working with him, and Grissom's shown like great work ethic. I think Chad Tracy just like you ask him about Grissom, and it's just.
And the thing is, real quick, with Meyer and Campbell, worry about that when it happens.
Yeah,
you don't know who's going. They're all going to start in AAA. The big four, AAA. Like, I would be shocked if one of them. Now, last year, a couple weeks ago, I would have said, okay, maybe, but then you just look at it, and it's like, what there's only one positive about starting them in AAA. Sorry, starting them on the big league roster. You know what that is? The draft.
The draft pick. But like, here's the thing, though. The draft pick is the argument, but at the same time, like, if they're not ready, they're not ready. And I'm not saying that they're not ready in terms of like the Red Sox value AAA as a developmental level. A lot of teams, there's a lot decent. Well, not a lot. There's a decent chunk of teams that don't. The Red Sox do. The Rays do, right? That was the big thing behind Bloom.
Oh,
the Red Sox still.
Oh yeah.
The Red Sox still do. Right? Look how long the Rays kept Wander Franco in AAA before they called him up. I know, obviously, we know what happened eventually, but like.
Well, no, I mean, we all know what happened to him, but like everyone knew he was going to be really special because the Rays. It's not solely because the Rays stashed him in AAA. It's because they had Willy Adames, right, already at shortstop.
Yeah.
He was probably as big of a trade piece as it got because one, I think the Rays knew internally, look, Wander Franco is our future. Adames, if we get the right deal, we're going to trade him whenever the opportunity presents itself. 2, the batter's eye. He was hated the batter's eye, and that's what contributed to his bad stats at Tropicana Field. So that's why. The Red Sox could honestly internally say, Vaughn Grissom is great. We love Christian Campbell more. Or in terms of shortstop, yet worry about it when it happens. Everyone's like, oh, what are you going to do with Story when Meyer's here? Like,
you figure it out.
You figure it out as time goes on.
There could be injuries too.
Yes, you don't know what injuries are going to happen. Like if God forbid a Trevor Story goes down again.
Or Rafi
even. Or even Grissom again. If he doesn't come in healthy, that opens the door for 2 guys. 3 guys.
Chase Mydroth still chilling.
Chase Mydroth was going to be one of the guys I mentioned.
Here's the thing too, right? In that sense as well, with like those guys with the big 4. It's the point. The thing is, you keep them in AAA too because they haven't had the best. I mean, look how long the Rays kept Junior Caminero in AAA. Like, they didn't need to keep him in AAA that long, you know. Like there's the Red Sox value AAA as a developmental level, and they're not going to rush guys through AAA just to get them to the big leagues. Obviously, we'll see what happens in the offseason. If one of those big 4 come in and look amazing in spring training, they might have to reconsider. But I don't know.
I don't know about that though.
But as of
because
now,
you got to see because it's like seniority. Like if Roman Anthony comes out swinging, so does all these other guys.
But it's not even that, honestly. I just think it's the reps in AAA that they haven't had that. And spring training isn't always the greatest, like, way
It's
to
not.
view talent because, like,
Oh, it's no,
yeah,
it's one of the worst ways to
because
evaluate talent.
no, it is because it's like Bobby Dahlbeck has a great spring training. Oh yeah, but he's facing Double A and barely trip and
No,
maybe
not even
borderline
that.
Triple A
Not even
pitchers.
that. Not even that.
No,
Just that. He's facing double A, triple A, even major league ready pitchers, but they're only throwing fastballs to go get their velocity up. They're throwing breaking balls, okay, but their majority of them are throwing fastballs because they need the velocity.
but not even that. But just in general though, like you're not facing a ton of like the big league caliber, especially early in spring training, or if you're not starting games, which which is I don't know how many games they would start the Big Four will start in spring training. Like there's definitely the chances of because they're going to be non-roster invites, I would assume. But like there's
Yeah.
definitely the chance of like okay, they're not getting like a ton of playing time against the MLB arms, and one of those MLB arms aren't even like season ready, but also too like okay, you're facing guys in AAA or Double A even like yeah, if they hit well, like you would expect them to in some sense. Like if they're facing Double A arms, like yeah, you would think they're gonna hit well, right? Like that's
Hold
the
on
thing.
real quick. Costas just hit a third home run of the day.
But like the thing is though too, and I think here's the big thing as well. Like as much as we want to see the Big Four and the big leagues, there's no rush, and the Red Sox have the pieces to not have to rush them. Obviously, I think the general consensus the Red Sox are trading an outfielder, especially a left-handed hitting outfielder, which means either Jaron Duran or Wilyer Abreu. I think both of us are in agreement that we would rather it be Jaron Duran, not because we want to see Jaron Duran go, but because of the fact that you're going to get a much bigger return for Jaron Duran. You're more likely to get that top of the rotation caliber pitcher that the Red Sox need trading Jaron Duran. Whereas if you trade Willier, you're probably not getting that. You're more likely to get a middle of the rotation guy who maybe if they jump could be close to that top of the rotation guy, but you can't bank on that. You're more likely to get a middle of the rotation guy, or if you want the top end guy, you're gonna have to trade like Abreu plus maybe even like a Christian Campbell, and I don't think the Red Sox would want to do that. And here's the thing that comes into it too, because we talked about this. We start looking towards next year in this Red Sox team, and let's just say it's Jaron Duran who's gone. Just hypothetically, let's just say it's Jaron Duran for easiness. Let's say they trade him to Seattle because we talked about this. Randy Rosarena defense is not that good. They could very
Boom, you
well
stick
DH
Duran in
him.
left field.
And
Like,
yeah,
tell me
yes,
that's like a Jerry DePoto loves guys who put up high WAR and F speed.
yes, and so here and this is why it becomes important too. They can stick Duran in left and DH Rosarena. I know Luke Raley gets a little bit interesting, but they can play him at first base. Ty France isn't there anymore. I know they have Locklear, but like they can figure that out, right?
Figure it out. You're still getting Duran, who
Exactly.
how much F WAR B WAR does he have?
Uh,
A
a
lot.
lot, a lot. But like the thing is too, like you can with Duran, you could go bring in a Bryce. You could bring in a Bryce Miller or a Brian Wu, and then maybe get additional pieces, or swing for the fences with Jaron Duran. You know what? I want go get a Logan Gilbert or a George Kirby. Go get one of them, right? Something like that. There's also that option too, right? If you're trading Jaron Duran, yeah, you could get Miller, you could get Wu, and then maybe you add in another piece I suggested, maybe like a Matt Brash, because he's young relievers got control. I know he's coming off of Tommy John, but like still, or you go get one of the big fish. Go out, go get Logan Gilbert, go get George Kirby, get one of them, right? Because the Mariners, as much as they love those guys, they have 5 really good starting pitchers. They don't need 5 of them.
And they have guys in AAA ready.
Yes, exactly. And it's not like they can't sign a veteran to be the number 5 starter either. Like there's also that too, right? So they very much have the capability to trade. Mariners very well can trade one of those guys. The Red Sox very well have a piece that the Mariners could use. Or heck, maybe it's not even the Mariners. Maybe it's another team. Maybe it's I don't know who it would be. What other team would be that has like those kind of caliber starters? But like there's like
The
I don't know.
Giants.
Maybe, but like I'm trying to think like realistic, like off the top of my head, who would be like the best team? Who would be like a great fit? I say the Reds, but I don't know. I don't think they have like a piece that the Red Sox would want. And maybe like a Willier for Lodolo kind of swap, maybe. But like
Yeah, unless you're not trading Duran to anybody, like there's no like better fit than the Mariners. I feel like other
exactly,
teams don't really make that much sense.
Yeah, but here's
Like,
the
for
but, like,
example, hypothetically, if the Tigers were to have Screwball, hypothetically, there's no way in heck they're gonna have Tiger Screwball on the trade block. That is
no.
stupid, especially where they are. Center field. I mean, the outfield for them, I don't know. Let me check Fangraphs. It doesn't really make sense for them, if I recall correctly. Let me double
They
check
have
that.
you have Riley Green, right? That's the big one. They have
You have Riley Green.
yes,
You have Vierling. He's been really good. Parker
Vierling's been good.
Meadows too.
Yep, Parker Meadows has been good. Kerry Carpenter also can play outfield.
I like honestly.
Vierling can
Parker
move
Meadows
around though.
is really good.
Vierling can move around a little bit, but he hasn't been playing as he's been playing more outfield because they have Jace Young at third. But
Yeah, you even have a
now.
Banez. Yeah, I know he hasn't been great, but
yeah, but he's a platoon. No, he's a platoon guy though. He hits
yeah,
lefties, destroys lefties. You have Wenceel Perez there. He's
yeah. But back to the main point. Like, if the Red Sox were to trade Duran, excuse me, it opens up a lot. It opens up a lot of questions, or it starts a lot of questions. Like, figure out, especially when it comes to the outfield like construction, right? I'm just saying, I don't think O'Neill comes back. The only way I think they offer the qualifying offer is if they have a strong sense he will decline it. It wouldn't be the end all be all if he accepted it, but you can get a draft pick out of Tyler O'Neill, who's probably seeking a long-term deal. Like, I don't know, you don't need another prove it year deal with O'Neill. This was kind of his prove it year. He got the change of scenery, really good offensive bat. He stayed healthy for his standards. Like, yeah, here and there he went on the IL for 3 or 4 separate issues, but it was like the minimum time for all of them.
Yeah.
With Tyler O'Neill, you take that. But back to my point though, you have Cedon in center, Wilyer Abreu.
Mm-hmm.
Then, assuming Rob Refsnyder doesn't retire and the Red Sox take his option, then you have Rob Refsnyder playing everyday outfield.
Yeah, and here's the thing too that I brought up. You know, it's not obviously like the most obviously they have different options, but you can bring in a guy like a Mark Canha per se, who can play a little bit of left field, can play first base. He gives you kind of a backup first baseman to Casas. He can also play left field. He hits lefties well. This year he hasn't been as good this year, but he's still been around a league average hitter, right? Draws his walks, works at bats. A little bit of the Justin Turner mold in some sense with that. Obviously, Turner might be a little bit better than him, but like he can play first and left field compared to first base, and might break his ankle if he plays third.
Right.
But so like that's the thing, like, because it seems like Yoshida's not playing the outfield. I know they could stick Yoshida in
But
left.
the thing is, we were talking about this earlier. They're more likely to get a half a year contingency option or a half a year Raimel Tapia-esque, or
as a fifth outfielder, yeah.
As a fifth outfielder who you can stash on the major league roster. Heck, maybe it's even the AAA roster. You can stash on that and say, if an injury happens, if somebody goes down, God forbid, you're not just totally left wondering, what the F do we do?
And it's not, and you won't be forced to call up a Roman Anthony.
Right. You won't be forced. If something's happening with him, if he's struggling or he has his own issues, exactly to your point, they can go out and say, we got this as a contingency option. We got this as a kind of our insurance option. I think you look at a guy like we said, Michael A. Taylor.
Yeah, my
really bad
idea here.
That's Derek's idea, not my idea. This is Derek's idea.
Guy can't hit, but you know what he can do? He can play defense and he can run. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like bench outfielder to me.
That sounds like bench outfielder. And we were talking like he can sign into a minor league deal.
Yes, he's been awful. Awful. He's got like a 50 weighted runs created plus this year. But like the point with Michael A. Taylor is he can play center field. You know what the Red Sox would need if they trade Jarren Duran?
Center fielder.
Someone else who can play center field that's not named Cedon Rafaela. Do not get me wrong. I think Wilyer Abreu could play center field.
Romy could too, but they're not going to. But they're not going to.
They like him in right field so much they're not going to move him out of right field. It's kind of like it's kind of like with Mookie Betts, how like I'm not saying Willier's Mookie, but like with Mookie, they were never going to put him in center field because he was so great in right field. What's the point of moving him? Willier's kind of being like that in right field right now, where it's like he's so good in right field. don't move him from there, right? And you have Raphael in center. You would have Ref Snyder, Canna, however you figure it out, in left. Canna also is your backup first baseman. And then, you have Michael A. Taylor on the bench who can, Rafaela needs a day off, or Rafaela's got to play second base for whatever reason for a day. Throw Michael A. Taylor in center field, hit him ninth, and let it fly, right? That's a guy you could probably even get on a minor league deal. You won't have to add, and like you would be able to do that, right? I think for that case, like it gives you a little bit of options. And because I think this is why I brought it up, I don't love the idea necessarily. Everyone's like, oh, that's need a right-handed bat, da da da. They do, but like, is it really a good fit? Because hypothetically, you've got your big four coming in, right? They all start next year in Worcester, most like 90. I'm locked in on them starting the year in Worcester, right? But you start to have to bring those guys up, and just the big four. Meyer slots in at shortstop. What do you do with Story? You figure it out.
Figure it out when you need to figure it out.
I will
say that.
Obviously, Teal's figures out the catching situation, right? Teal probably starts a lot long, might play against lefties, but right, you got that, right? Roman Anthony, absolutely, he's going to play in the outfield, right? So you would think Roman Anthony slots into left field, Raphael in center, Wilyer in right. That's what you do, right? But then where does Christian Campbell play? And this was kind of the idea I brought up. Depending on Raphael's bat, how that's going, Christian Campbell doesn't seem to have a home defensively, right? Because it feels like it would be second base, but it feels like they're giving the keys of second base, to Vaughn Grissom, right? And it says they have a ton of faith in him. And if Meyer's playing shortstop every day, where does that leave Story? Story might be getting some games at second base too. Heck, I know Meyer, I brought us up, if Raffy gets injured, heck, maybe Meyer ends up at third base if Raffy gets hurt, but like that's worst case scenario. But Christian Campbell doesn't really have a home. So I think that when you kind of look at it, Christian Campbell's been playing all over the place. But he's not a shortstop in the big leagues. Third base is a stretch. It's really second base or outfield, and in the outfield, you're probably sticking him in left field. But that becomes okay, because if Christian Campbell plays left field, Roman Anthony plays center, Wilyer plays right, Cedar Rafaela kind of becomes your super utility guy, and you just play him all over the place. You need him to play shortstop for a day, cool, stick him at short, or you need him to play second base for a day, cool. You need him in center field, right, cool, stick him in center, right? Even if, yes, you have Roman Anthony in center. Roman Anthony can handle center field in the big leagues, I believe.
Yes. He can handle anywhere.
And that's why, too, okay, Wilyer needs a day off in right. Shift Roman Anthony over to right field, put Cedar in center. Or
yes.
Campbell gets a day off in left, shift Roman Anthony to left, put Cedar in center. And then that obviously Michael A. Taylor goes, obviously. Mark Canna's still your backup first baseman, so you don't have to worry about that. And hypothetical if Mark Canna's there.
So, yeah.
And so it kind of creates this more like, okay, it starts to kind of fit in a little bit easier that way. Obviously, there's still like, some like, where does everyone go? But like, you can create a little bit more, obviously, because like I said, the Meyer situation with Story and Grissom, where does that leave them? But you figure it out, right? And I think, too, like, the whole righty-lefty thing is a little bit overblown. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know what the situation is going to be with Wilyer. Like, they might still platoon Wilyer next year. But, like, you have Ref Snyder and Mark Canna. Heck, Mark Canna can play left field against lefties, and and then Ref Snyder plays right. It's not the greatest defensive alignment, but like if you have Rafaela in center, he helps out with that, And I'm not saying.
And the other thing is, if you trade Wilyer,
yeah,
that's a little different too.
But it becomes a little different because then Roman Anthony's probably your right fielder, and Duran,
which is perfectly fine.
Yeah,
which is perfectly fine.
Which is fine, right?
Because you need a good center fielder and right field, especially at Fenway.
Yeah, so it still works out somewhat similarly. It's just the optics are type bit different with Duran instead of Wilyer, whereas now like Duran's maybe your left fielder or center fielder. Rafael is either your center fielder or super utility guy. Roman Anthony's in right, and then Campbell maybe slots into left field still. So it just changes it slightly. But that's the thing too with Rafaela. I know they signed to an extension, but like that's still a very cheap deal, right? Regardless, either way. And if he becomes this like super utility guy where it does like anyone needs a day off, you just slide. Like Rafaela could be that super utility guy who plays 5 or 6 games a week, but just plays at 3, 4, 5 different positions over the course of the week. Maybe not 4 or 5 different positions because they might just keep him up the middle, second, short, center, and they might move like Roman Anthony, for example, from center to right or center to left, or Duran, if Duran's still around, from center to left, however they figure it
But
out,
yeah,
right? But that's the point I'm making, where it's like Rafaela could be that super utility guy who plays a bunch of different positions, but still plays the majority of games.
yeah. So if you're gonna take anything out of this conversation, is the Red Sox are someone's gotta move, right? And even that, even if they don't, even if they do, they're gonna figure it out as the season progresses. They're gonna figure it out.
Yes, and don't get
If
me
you're
wrong.
Gonna take anything from that conversation, they're gonna figure it out. Just
Yes,
right now is not the time you figure that stuff out.
exactly. But also too, don't lose your minds if they don't get this big right-handed bat one, because there's not really many available. It's
This class is very weak. This is very weak. Like O'Neal's like the second best
Hernandez.
guy.
Like Pete Alonso's obviously not happening, so like don't even think about that.
Pete
right?
Alonso
So
can
like,
go get his bag in Colorado.
yeah, well, or wherever. But like no, but the point is though, is like if they don't get this big right-handed bat, like that's not a lost off season. Like I said, I think that's the thing too. Don't just bank on. Don't go. Oh, if they don't get a right-handed bat, it's a bad off season, because that's not true, right? Obviously, it would be nice if they could get one, but you have Story, you have Grissom, you have Wong, you have Rafaela. That's 4 righties. I know those are 4 of your worst hitters on paper, but like you like that. That's what it is, though. Like those are you have 4 righties. I know 5 lefties is a lot, but at the same time, if they're your best hitters, you got to play them, right? So there's also that side thing. And Ref Snyder would be a 5th righty if he were to play every day as well.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, like, it's not. Yes, you would like that big right-handed bat in the middle of your lineup to split, put in between Devers and Casas, but in the 3 spot, most ideally. But not everything can be perfect. So, like I said, just because if they don't do everything perfect, that doesn't mean it's a bad offseason. They can still have a very good offseason. And let's remember this: 2025 isn't the true window. The window is when the Big Four, aka Nuttown, is established. That doesn't really start until 2026. And I know it's a pill to swallow. That does not mean the team cannot be good in 2025. But if we're talking like World Series, it's probably not 2025. It's probably 26, 27 if we're talking like World Series.
I think next year will be they could make the playoffs next year.
Oh no, they definitely could. Next year, I think
it's just not World Series. They're not going to be proven. It's going to be almost like a 2017 Leafs-esque, right? Just a team of a lot of young guys who are trying to figure it out.
Couple veterans mixed in.
Couple vets.
And yeah, and like and then after the year you go, oh crap, this team could be a force to be reckoned with for a long time. I think that's more so what that's what
they're going for. No, that is exactly what they're going for. It's just Rome. You can't build Rome in a day.
Yes.
Roman. In a day.
I was just thinking that. But like that's the point though. You can't build Rome in a day, and also too like it doesn't really matter in terms of, like next year matters, but it doesn't matter in terms of it's not a World Series or bust year. That's not the Red Sox. The big thing for this offseason is don't tie yourself into anything that's going to handcuff you long term. I think that's the big thing. If it's an ace, that's different. But like, don't go out and get an Alex Bregman on a 5-year deal, and then in a year you're like, oh crap, what the hell do we do? Because we have too many guys for.
That's why they probably won't.
And exactly, I think that's the big thing.
They're not gonna. If they're gonna make any big splash at all, it's gonna be on the pitching side.
Yes, exactly. And if they bring in a right-handed bat, you know what? It's probably a 1-year deal. It's probably Tyler O'Neill on a QO. With
that's like the biggest offer they'll give.
Yeah. Or it's like, or maybe they go Teoscar on a 1-year deal. Maybe they try and do that, but like, I don't think Teoscar.
He's getting a multi-year. I think he's getting a multi-year.
I think that's what I was gonna say. I think he's absolutely getting.
He got the 1-year deal, so he can get a multi-year deal. Don't think that's an option for the Red Sox.
And that's exactly why I say, don't be shocked if it's like a Mark Canha type, right? They bring back Ref Snyder. You go get a backup catcher, and I think we both love the idea of Austin Hedges because we know he can't hit to save his life, but like, good defensive catcher. Good framer, especially at the bottom of the zone. That's what the Red Sox really, really value. And also a true veteran, another voice, kind of Hedges, Canha, etc. Fix the leadership problem that is there, because it's clear that there is a leadership problem. Whether it's Alex Cora or it's the players or whoever it is, I don't know. maybe it's too much of the same voice, and that's what I think we talked about too. I just want to bring this up quickly of like maybe too much, a little bit same voices in the clubhouse all the time. Maybe you need a new voice. Maybe keeping Alex Cora wasn't the greatest. Maybe it wasn't the best decision, just in terms of this clubhouse might need a new voice, right? Nothing that Alex Cora's done wrong, but like, and obviously Cora does have his guys, and like Zach Kelly, for example, when he chucks Zach Kelly in the ninth inning, which gets scary at times, but also too, what other options does Alex Cora have when he chucks Zach Kelly in during the ninth inning, right? With between injuries and guys struggling and guys needing rest, doesn't have a ton of, and Kenley Jansen never being available. It seems like lately, not many options, right? So I think that too. Maybe could have gone in a direction, but like I don't think it's that big of a deal. But they definitely need some leadership, especially on the player side of things.
Yeah.
Story being around and healthy would be very helpful. Bringing in a guy, like I said, like a Mark Canna, like a Austin Hedges could be helpful. Liam Hendricks being there, the whole healthy, Lucas Giolito being there healthy. That'll all help, right?
Yeah.
Bring in the young guys, get ready for this young explosion for the Red Sox, and just have fun on the ride. Pretty much.
Exactly. So I think that just about does it. It was our Red Sox will.
We got one more thing. We have a
stat of the week. Stat of the week. Yes.
Because this happened last night. There was a new record in the NPB. Hiroshima Carp shortstop Masaya Yano was in an at-bat against Hideki Wakui, set a new NPB record for most pitches in a plate appearance with a 22-pitch walk. That's also more than the MLB regular season record for longest at bat, which was set by Brandon Belt in 2018, the 21-pitch bat. A 22-pitch walk. How about that one?
Mm-hmm.
That's difficult to do. And funnily enough, started out as an 0-2 count.
Huh.
So
whoa,
there you go. Yep.
One strike away 20 times just to walk him.
Yep. There you go. There's our stat of the week. That might as well
Stat of the week.
Might be stat of the month.
Stat of the
Stat of the year.
No, I think we gotta do that. We'll do that more in the off season, digging and recapping. But so you'll probably hear once again for our final year report cards next episode. And like I said, this was the will. The eulogy will probably be next. Next episode, because this Red Sox team is probably given 1 week to live until it tragically and expectedly passes away. So, for Derek, my name is Jason. Thank you for tuning into the Fenway Focus, and we'll see you on the next episode. Go Sox.